So actually, I am proud to be associated with a welfare change that is genuinely designed to tackle poverty and inequality. Yep.
Beg your pardon. Sorry, Cabinet Secretary.
I just wondered if the member says she was proud of welfare reforms. I wonder if she's proud of the two-child limit and whether she's proud of the rape clause.
Michelle Ballantyne.
The two-child limit is about fairness. It is fair that people on benefit cannot have as many children as they like, while people who work and pay their way and don't claim benefits have to make decisions about the number of children they can have. Fairness is fairness to everybody, not to one part of the community. Universal credit...
Sorry. Mr Finlay, I'd like to hear what the member has to say. Whether you agree with it or not, it's to be heard. Please, Ms Johnson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. At the start of this month, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation warned that 1 in 4 Scottish children are living in poverty. Highly regressive and aggressive cuts to our social security system are driving increased poverty, including child poverty and rapidly burgeoning food poverty. And I would like to inform Michelle Ballantyne that it is my view that the two-child limit is not fair, and it's certainly not fair to the third child in a family. I will not. I have 4 minutes. By 2020, the ongoing benefit freeze will have taken £300 million out of the pockets and the wallets of our poorest people. Perhaps most cruelly, the introduction of PIP reduces or eliminates entirely the extra cost benefit entitlement of thousands of disabled Scots. Some people have lost motability vehicles as a result. They cannot get out to work. They can't visit friends and family. And all of that is before we get to universal credit, which has cut support to families despite promising not to do so. And the full horrendous impacts of this policy are yet to be seen. The Labour motion is right to call attention to the terrible impact of these reforms. But it is important to note the progress that we are making in Scotland to establish a fairer social security system, a system that offers real security to people and recognises the social bonds between us all. Now, it only covers a small part of the overall budget, but it is based on the principles of dignity and respect. And as a result of Green amendments, of which we are proud, it's a system which is explicitly aimed at reducing poverty. In a system where £16 billion worth of benefits are unclaimed every year, Scotland is pursuing an income maximisation approach. Scotland is also aiming for a significant increase in the uptake of the Best Start grant, which is welcome. And Scotland has taken a stand against benefit sanctions, which no longer operate through Scottish employment schemes, another Green Manifesto commitment. But all parties in this chamber have made this a stronger social security system. All made changes to the founding legislation. So it is important to note this progress, and I do feel that the Labour motion falls short in this regard. Further, Labour are calling for an end to austerity while recklessly pursuing a jobs-first Brexit. Brexit is predicted to cause unprecedented levels of economic hardship across almost every sector and region of the UK. We absolutely must stand against austerity, as the Labour motion rightly notes. But a Tory Brexit will also hit the poorest the hardest. And nor are we content with the Conservative amendments' attempts to cover up the impact the decisions of the UK Government are having on Scotland's poorest. The Scottish Government are to be congratulated for taking a stand against the welfare reforms that are causing so much poverty, but it can and it must go further. The Scottish Government won't use the powers available to it to apply a universal £5 top-up to child benefit, which we know will take tens of thousands of children out of relative poverty. They're too timid to allow local authorities the power to levy taxes to fund vital local services, dragging their feet even on a tourist tax. They won't look at a workplace parking levy, and a new system of local taxation has to be investigated. We need to replace the outdated and regressive council tax. If we're serious about reducing poverty in Scotland, we have some real challenges ahead of us. But our social security system is a positive step in the right direction. The Green Amendment would have kept in the motion an acknowledgement of the need to end austerity and stand against falling living standards, rising poverty and inequality, the rollout of universal credit and the damage the Tory party is wreaking on our social security system. But we can't take credibly a bid to end austerity while the party proposing it is supporting an exit from the European Union, which will also cause huge damage to those most impacted by austerity. We also want to see the Scottish Government doing much more than it's already doing, take a more radical stance, use the powers that we now have, enable us to do all that this Parliament can to end poverty, inequality and austerity.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Can I now? Tom Arthur, followed by Jeremy Balfour.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak in this debate. Debating poverty, debating inequality is one of our fundamental duties in this place. It is a debate which taxes us intellectually because of how challenging an area is, but it's also a debate which taxes us emotionally because each and every one of us in our role representing our constituencies and regions will have had come face to face with people who have been at the sharp end of Tory austerity and have had their lives in some cases utterly destroyed and shaken as a consequence of their engagement with the welfare system. Now, I want to recognise the motion that Labour have brought forward. Unfortunately, I can't support it because of one line in it, essentially, which states that the Scottish Government have failed to use the devolved powers adequately. Now, I'm happy to always argue for more powers to be used, for more powers to come to this Parliament, and for new and innovative ways of using these powers. But this Parliament and this Government has delivered in a lot of areas, be it on the 2030 targets on child poverty, full mitigation of the bedroom tax, launching the carers supplement, extending access to free sanitary products, the Homeless and Rough Sleepers Action Group, commitments to implement and recognise all the recommendations, increasing the Fair Food Fund, setting up Social Security Scotland, using the income tax powers progressively to offset cuts from the UK Government, the Pupil Equity Fund, £750 million committed towards closing the attainment gap, increasing provision of free childcare as up to 30 hours by the end of this Parliament, a commitment to the to the real living wage for all Scottish Government employees since 2011, the new Best Start grant coming on imminently, and the baby box as well. These are a range of other areas, and where we don't have the powers over employment law, we are taking strong steps, such as with the Scottish Business Pledge and also Carer Positive, a great scheme that I would encourage all MSPs to sign up to and to become carer positive employers, and to send a message out. Let me just finish this one point, and to send a message out to all of those businesses and employers in your own constituency and region that they too can become carer positive employers. I'll give way to the member.
Elaine Smith.
I thank the member for giving way, and of course much of that has to be applauded and supported, but also over that time the SNP has passed on Tory austerity to councils, with the cuts of £1.5 billion stripped out of their budget since 2011.
Mr Arthur.
I thank the member for intervention. This actually comes to a real fundamental point and crux in this debate, because fundamentally it comes down to two views of what this Parliament is for. There's a view of the Labour Party which is it's a buffer. Alex Cole-Hamilton spoke about this Parliament having to mop up the consequences of Tory welfare reforms. Now, that's a view and a philosophy that the Labour Party are entitled to. But it's not the view I have, because I don't want to have to be the Parliament that mitigates. I want to be the Parliament where all of the powers are in this Parliament, powers over employment law, so we can make sure there is a real living wage and under 25s aren't being paid the poverty national minimum wage. I want to have the full range of powers so we can truly transform Scotland. And I want the full powers so we don't live in a country where colleagues of Michelle Ballantyne get to dictate social security policy in this country. Because I have to say, in my 2.5 years in this Parliament, the contribution from Michelle Ballantyne was one of the most disgraceful speeches I have ever heard. 6 minutes of pompous Victorian moralising that would have been better suited to the pages of a Dickens novel. And to suggest that poverty should be a barrier to a family, that people who are poor are not entitled to any more than 2 children, what an absolutely disgraceful position. And she should be utterly, utterly ashamed of herself.